When reporting on substance abuse and drug addiction, there are many potential pitfalls for reporters to fall into all the time. Those who are struggling with addiction can often be used for humor in the mainstream media. They also can be portrayed as crazy, helpless, or losers that are actively choosing to be homeless or to destroy their lives. A lot of conversation around addiction frames those affected with it in a really bad light, and there's a lot of victim shaming involved. This can be seen in articles such as this, where reporters are no longer seeing these people as human and treating them like they deserve to be humiliated. This victim shaming can be seen in how the story is framed, as well as the terminology used. Words such as druggies, junkies, potheads, losers, and crackheads are common descriptions that are derogatory. Crackhead specifically is a term that integrated itself into our vernacular despite it being derogatory and racist. A powerful quote in the Washington Square News states, "You hear it everywhere. We're acting like crackheads. That's some crackhead behavior. It's crackhead hour." The word crackhead is typically used to describe sporadic, loud, and risky behavior that is often seen from those experiencing something akin to the symptoms of crack cocaine use without the crack itself. It's become part of our vernacular, but those who throw the word crackhead into conversation fail to acknowledge that it is a racist callback to the crack epidemic of the 1980s and the war on drugs that came with it.
48 hours on Crack Street will continue.
Police, open up, we got water here.
And most down in the streets. That's what you call good coke.
How would you say? You a nigga or dog?
These people are really dropping like flies in the streets.
There is also a lot of reporting that is repetitive or doesn't have a fresh angle. This often can be seen in regards to the opioid epidemic. Every news station has reported on it, and there are almost never new angles to it. Some better ways to go about reporting on substance abuse and addiction are to take it case by case. Everyone's situation and story is different, so making generalizations can only lead to inaccuracies and cliched reporting.
I only felt it was necessary to talk about it because I had never envisioned that or thought of it before. But the more I heard people speak about what it was like, who she was, and they weren't getting it right. And I don't believe that Whitney knew how the aftermath would be so messy. And I don't believe that it should be that way. So I want to clear the mess so you can see her for who she was. A young woman who knew what she wanted to do and went out there and seized every opportunity.
Another thing to keep in mind is that the addiction may not necessarily be the person's fault, and keeping an open mind to the person's situation is important when covering addiction. It is essential to use information not to exploit, but to educate. For instance, when Jamie Lee Curtis publicly announced her addiction, tabloids didn't use her rehabilitation to dehumanize her, but rather applaud.
I'm sober today. Am I going to be sober for the rest of my life? I hope so. I'm going to do everything I can to be. But I'm saying I am an addict, and I am in recovery, and I work a hard, good program, and I pay a lot of attention to it, but it's a pernicious disease. Being able to acknowledge your own illness, being an alcoholic, being a drug addict, to call yourself an alcoholic or a drug addict is a badge of honor, because the secret, the shameful secret, is the reason why it is such a pervasive illness.
Addiction is a disease that most people cannot help. Along these lines, there is no right way to recover from addiction, as programs that work for some people may not work for everyone. Here again, making generalizations is dangerous because people may feel defeated when they are being told a recovery path should work for them, but then it doesn't. One last thing to keep in mind is that the relationship between drug abuse and crime is completely complicated. Not every person that struggles with addiction is a criminal and vice versa. When reporting on drug addiction, there is a wide variety of relevant terminology that is important to remember. Some of these are addiction, dependence, dopamine, impulsivity, mental disorder, overdose, psychosis, remission, tolerance, and withdrawal.